All right. I think we're live. We got a couple people in here already. That's awesome. So I'm just going to get started. My name's Sean. Thanks for tuning in. This is the How To Hero YouTube channel, where it's my job to awaken the hero within you. There's a hero within all of us. And I got my second camera set up today, so I can switch between like this. Let me just try, make sure it's working and stuff. And we could see my my table there. And so I just want to make sure that that went across to the stream properly. And that'll be good. So when I'm doing readings later, I want to thank everyone in advance for any super chats. I appreciate it very much. It helps with the channel, helps me kind of keep dedicating time to this stuff. So, and we'll go back to face here. And so today I wanted to talk about sort of the science of awakening as I see it, as I've come to see it in all of my studying and trying to figure out kind of what was going on with me. Kind of talk from the beginning, and then you know, we'll see where it goes from there. I also want to talk about kind of reclaiming our power and how we do that once we start to understand our, you know, how we are, and understand that we're creators of the universe that we're in, that we reclaim that divinity and step into our birthright, and how we do that. Some of the, because it's baby steps typically, right? We need to start to understand these things cognitively, and then we start to really integrate that. So that's kind of what I'll be talking about today. And then I'll do Q&A and stuff too. Let me actually make sure the chat's up here. I'm the one who keeps putting too many comments. I saw your comments. I saw them. Laisla? I saw them. I didn't get a chance to read them. I saw the long ones and stuff. Welcome to the channel. I'm so happy you found us here. I saw some of them. I'm gonna read them though. I am. I promise you. I read all the comments. And sometimes it takes me a little while, but I always read them. But welcome to the stream. Okay, so I guess I'll start with the science of it and kind of how awakening starts, and we'll go from there. So my current theory is that depending on your generation that you're born, your avatar sort of comes sort of pre-equipped with different auric protections. And this is why, as our society has become more open to different types of individuals, like people kind of having their own path, right? Like we became more open as a society in general, like the younger generations, right? So it's more okay to be ourselves. And as it became more okay to be ourselves, we needed less and less energetic protection, which is why people that are maybe like teenagers right now are going to feel like adults are just like weird to them, most adults. But then people my age, my generation, and the mid 80s are going to really feel at home with a lot of the teenage generation right now, because we like the expression. We were hindered our expression in most of our years, and we sort of resonate with that, even though we may not show our own as much. It kind of depends where we're at. But anyway, so my theory is that we kind of are predisposed to these sort of levels of awareness of ourself, our true self, and also our levels of sort of our willingness to then step into that, right? So we have that sort of different levels that we're sort of born as, based a lot on genetics and generational things too. I think it was Dolores Cannon talked a lot about the volunteer waves and how they came in for incarnations in certain waves, and it spiked in certain generations. And I haven't read too much into that, but I believe the mid 80s it spiked, and then it started coming up more. And then that's where you hear about the rainbow children and stuff like that, or crystals. You'll hear that term as well. And the way that I understand that term is like they're born with much less auric protection, so they have just more openness to their fields, which means they're more sensitive to all energy. They'll often have like really big bright eyes and stuff like that too. And people will, when that read their auras, will say that they appear to have a crystalline aura, like a rainbow kind of aura, depending on the sensitivity of the reader. So my aura is often described as like violet, or it could be indigo. And truly what my aura is, I'm an elder indigo. There's like a fruit fly in here chilling with me. Elder indigo. So as I walk in, um, Sean was just an indigo, and I'm an octarine indigo, which is the color. My aura is the color of magic, which is you can't. I don't know if there's octarine on the internet, but I'd be interested to see. I think there was a writer somewhere that wrote about it in a book or something. But octarine is like a color that's not on our visual spectrum here. It's in the sort of the other dimension, the magic dimension. That's where that color is. And so in this plane, it appears, it can appear indigo. Anyways, but depending on how we're kind of configured, that will kind of lead us to our innate understanding of our sovereignty. And we start to see that that we are not just the 3D vessel. That's really where it starts. We start to break that attachment. We start to understand that we're not our body only. Like our body's like a component of us, an arm of us, really, is how we start to understand it. And we start to realize, oh, okay, in my mind here, if we think about the way that our thoughts are forming, I'm observing all these thoughts, right? So I'm not the thought, because I can't be, because I'm the observer of it, right? We start to separate then. We're like, okay, well then where are the thoughts coming from, right? And we start to analyze these things. We start to notice that there's a portion of us that's always a bit of an asshole, right? Always a negative kind of prick. And we realize that's our ego. That's our 3D programming that's sitting there trying to maintain hold as a sort of mechanism of darkness to catalyze us into light, and a built-in evolutionary method of our soul's evolution. And so Viola or Viola? Viola or Viola? That's a nice name. Welcome. So once we start to grasp that, that's when we'll have a shift. Like it could be a really big shift, or for me, like it was a really minor, just and my world changed, but it was very gradual and a slow change. It was just me starting to take responsibility for my thoughts, right? Take responsibility for the way that I was responding to the world. So you start to kind of separate. And for me, a lot of the benefits started to come from meditation, right? So I started to meditate and really spend time investigating my own consciousness. And once we start to do that a lot, we'll see like there's space between stimulus and response. And so now we're not identifying with the thoughts, right? We're like, okay, well, those thoughts are coming, but I'm just an observer of them. They don't really mean anything. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. Okay. And then we start to, eventually we'll equate that into experience. We'll start to go, okay, wait. So the self is a reflection, like I'm reflecting, or sorry, the world around me is a reflection of the internal self. So what I see in the world that bothers me is my own shadow in myself, right? We start to see that we're the ones projecting the reality, and then we see, right? So that's like the next sort of stage, and we don't always kind of see it that way. It doesn't always make sense in those terms. Sometimes what we'll feel is just a deep oneness, because all are a projection of you. And when all are a projection of you, you understand that all are one, and you are one with all. So that's when you go through those. Usually we'll have that switch, and then we'll go through like a period of time. For me, it was like 8 days. I think it was 8 days. But for some people, it's like a couple days or a few hours. But other people, it's like a few weeks. But they'll have this shift in awareness. Oh my gosh, I'm everything, and all are me. And suddenly there's this immense love for all. There's this just immense connectedness. And then usually your energy will amp up and you'll just be this kind of weirdo because you can't really relate with people's gripes. You can feel everything, but you understand that all of it is just all these people on this beautiful journey, and it's you're a part of their journey with them, and all these things, right? So you start to just be a weirdo essentially. And that is a taste of enlightenment. There's a term for it. I can't think of it right now. It might be Satori maybe, but there's a term for that, and it's a taste of enlightenment. That's what that's what you're gonna work towards, because your body is not really ready to hold that much what I call light quotient. Like, your body's, I don't know if I call it that or other people call it that, but that's what it makes sense to me. Light quotient. You have your vessel, and it has limitations, and I've experienced that's what ascension symptoms are, right? You're bringing more light in, and then the body has to do things to compensate for that, and the things that it does can get they vary from individual to individual, right? But yeah, so as your light quotient kind of starts to have to ramp up to meet that, because you'll have like a lot of people will have a Kundalini awakening, which I've described a little bit, but it's essentially, typically energy will start to really feel crazy in your spine, and then it will just shoot up, and you might feel it burst through the chakra centers. You might just feel it slide through. It kind of depends if you resist too. For me, when I had mine, I just felt into it. Like, it terrified me. I thought I was dying, to be honest. It felt really good though too. Like, it's indescribable, the feeling. I couldn't walk or anything. I had this friend that I had just met, that a very special friend of mine that I haven't talked to in a while, but I had just met her, and we were on sort of the same path, and I tried to call her and stuff, and I couldn't talk or anything like that, and it was this weird experience. Just thinking about it is emotional. So when I sort of came to, everything was like different, and I felt connected with everything, just everything. So I walked around and I was getting these shivers. I call them Kundalini shivers, and it's good. It's good. The oneness. So the way I like to describe it as well is, in order for us to really be practically available in our 3D bodies. Thank you for mentioning that. As long as for us to do things in our environment, we need to shift between perspectives of how we perceive the world. And so the first perspective is from our 3D physical avatars, like what our bodies need, our health, and things like that, and our material needs. And then the second perspective is from our higher self, our inner being. What does our inner being need to be aligned and to be pursuing their purpose? And sort of acting in the best for all, and understanding that we're all part of this together. Then the next tier is the third and final way that I know of to perceive in this dimension, right? Because we're limited in this dimension in our perceptions. So as far as I know, this is the highest you can go in this dimension, but this is the oneness that we talk about. And when we see the oneness, we start to not be able to act so practically, right? If we think because we're all one. And so I've had a state of oneness for a long time, and I gave away everything. I gave away my shoes, and I gave away my shirt, and I walked around in the sun burning in glass and stuff like that. And maybe that's what I'll talk about in another stream, or maybe even this stream. But I'll talk about when I was put away in a mental institution, and why that happened, and the balance between spiritual awakening and psychosis, and how to try to manage that balance better than I did, because I certainly did need help. Now, I was put away for much longer than was necessary, against my will, but That's another story, and I just made the best of it. It was a beautiful thing. I wouldn't change it for the world. I met so many awesome people that taught me so many things. Just patience there, that were just really downtrodden from the system. It made me see all the flaws in the psychiatric system very like firsthand. Being a fairly sane and intelligent person, and very down to earth most of the time, going through an episode, and then the rest of my words not being ever taken seriously just because I had that episode. Like, it was as if everything I said was horseshit. Pardon my French, but so I'll talk about that one day, or maybe today. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. I know the honor's all mine. The honor's all mine. Honestly, like, I'm just happy that people resonate with what I'm saying, that people are interested in it, because I think that this is where the most important personal development will come into play. Like, we can learn whatever we want. We're all intelligent beings, right? We can go learn how to make music, or we can learn how to build things and do whatever we want. But when we think about what's truly important, it's this, right? And ourselves. And if we elevate ourselves, then we just, it just seems like the best bang for the buck. And as somebody who ignored all of this type of stuff my entire life, I just like to see how many people are awakening. It's crazy. I had visions of this moment in time where there were people listening to me talk, and I couldn't fathom it when it first happened. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hello, Mysteriously Kind. Welcome. So I think what starts to happen is as you shift it into more alignment with yourself, you're operating in more of what's called flow state. You're more flowy moment to moment. This is why time starts to speed up, because you're not in the mental body. You're just being. You're present. You're in the now. Eckhart Tolle would say, it's the power of now. And once you're in that state for a long time, you start to move through experience, which is just a simultaneous now, a single now. Yeah, simultaneous wouldn't be the right word. It's a single moment of now that you're in. Time is just an illusion. But the longer you're in that flow state, the more elasticity you're building in your brain, because your brain matter starts to sort of get more just elastic. So the neural pathways start to shift away from the old ones. The old negative neural pathways just seem to fade away, because your brain starts to organize itself for more positive flows of neural pathways. And this is just my experience, and based on my discussions with an Arcturian medical representative on my STAR team. And that's a bit weird for me to say. This is all new for me. So that's why I was kind of like fidgety, I think, when I was saying it, because it's uncomfortable for me to talk about that stuff right now. Hey, Paul, what's up, man? What's up? I wonder why I have all these feelings and experiences to be as young as I am, 17. That's a good question. I haven't spoken with a lot of people under 18, and I want to especially say, like, I'm not a therapist or a doctor of any kind, so I'm not offering any medical advice. I just wanted to say that too. And I'm not specifically in adolescence and stuff. Like, I'm not qualified to really talk too much about that stuff. All I can talk about is like my experience, and then I can give information that my guides give me as well, and try to help people tune in. But most of the things I'm saying are just about thinking positively and being more in tune with yourself. So I don't see any danger in learning any of this stuff. But I will say that the further you dive into this, the more and more and more the world around you will become tougher. And it's important to understand that going into it. The more you empower yourself and bring more light in, the more darkness becomes apparent to you, and the more catalyst you have for further growth or opportunity to regress and pull back. And it's people that feel drawn to keep pushing that will continue to push up the spiral. It's called the spiral. One of the terms for it is the spiral staircase, or the spiral path of enlightenment. And then there are sort of like tiers to that keep going up. Yeah. And I mean, 17 I think is young, but that's around the time, you know, where like physically we start to come into adulthood. Cosmologically, that's the word, right? Cosmologically, we're not adults until around 30 when our Saturn returns. I don't know the exact years, but technically speaking, we're not a adult in the universe's eyes until that happens. But also, because this is all part of the grand plan, it makes sense that children born right now, like I can see it in one of my kids. He's not even 2, and I can tell just he's very conscious. His aura, like he's very aware, very, very aware. And so I think that generationally, it's just the evolutionary process. Children are being born more aware, and so it's not as much of a jump. And the longer that we're in this 3D body and in training negative thoughts and negative neural pathways, the more power we give to them. So Galactic Neighbor Spaceship, I have them on video. I believe them. I believe you, man. I believe you. I've worked with multiple entities. My star team is comprised of 2 Arcturus, 2 Sirian, and 2 Andromedans. I've worked with the Pleiadians a lot in the past, and I've sort of participated in some of the some different council meetings and things like that. It's been awesome, to be honest, because what I'll say though is, in order to start that, like if that's something you're interested in doing, it's I'm not special. What you do is you set that intention and start to build capacity in yourself for being a clear conduit, because what goes against that sort of mission of disclosure is distortion, negative distortion. Especially if we have negative entity attachments, negative darkness attachments, and then we start to channel in a being of light, that message can become distorted by us, and that's what they'll avoid, right? They also don't ever want to scare you, so if they think that you're going to get scared, they typically won't come in, and also that they'll modify their form depending on what will resonate with you, like what you're gonna see. Also, that's another thing I wanted to talk about, is how divinity will show itself to everyone differently. It's a unique experience for all. So myself, I work with multiple sort of light beings, and that's how I see divinity. So I see it through dragons and aliens, and I don't like the word alien, but I'll just use it just to be clear of what I'm talking about. And then also like angels as well. And some people are more aligned with just angels, and then other people are all just pure ET, and it's all great, it's all perfect, and it's all light at the end of the day. And our belief structures, the boxes of belief that we place ourselves in, is what forms those alignments. You can hear my kids screaming in the background, probably. So I wanted to talk about that brings me on to another topic, actually, about our limiting beliefs. I believe that awakening and enlightenment is all about breaking through different paradoxes. And so one of the key paradoxes that we have is that illusion of separation. And I talked about it a little bit when I said when we perceive the other, it's a reflection of ourselves, right? And so that's true. But the other is a unique fragmentation of source, right? The other is another unique fragmentation of source consciousness experiencing itself and sharing that experience with creator, source. And that's what you are as well. But it's strange to think about it, because now you think you're two tendrils of the same source, right? Let's say two tendrils of energy. But you're still connected at the source, and that connection keeps you as one. And there's consciousness in all things. It's a web of consciousness all together and entangled, and it's all one giant organism. You can think of it that way. So we are literally one. But in our minds, it's so hard to really get that and then stick with that. So a big part of awakening is like switching that perspective and seeing, oh, actually the entities that I'm calling to work with are me, are within me. I'm blocking myself by trying to call them so much. In fact, we get in our own way because we feel the separateness, the separate illusion. And so as we start to understand oneness, the law of one, we open our conduit more to outside communications. And that's how we start to crystallize our third eye as well. That's what I believe anyway. That's what I've been going through. So now I start to have people's spirit guides and different, well, at least that's what it seems to be. It seems to be people's spirit guides knocking on my door, and then I kind of invite them in to speak. Luckily, I've somehow had that sort of, I don't think everybody experiences this, where they have that sort of barrier, that polite knock. Like, I think a lot of people get bombarded with loudness, but somehow I've got this barrier where it's sort of like they knock and then I have to permit them to enter, which is nice. I think that's just because of my innate understanding of my sovereignty and the law of consent and stuff like that. I'm more in control with my energy, which is why I had to do all of the development I had to do with magic prior to coming into this type of ability, because it's a huge responsibility, and you can be sort of eavesdropping on people too without meaning to. Like, you can hear some of the things that maybe they're thinking about. Some of it might have to do with you and they didn't intend for you to hear it, so it starts to get muddy. But yeah. Yeah. You took video of the, oh, is it on your channel? I'll check it out later, Paul. That's awesome. And so I guess I'll go into now, like, after we start to awaken, how we take our power back, because we start to see the different areas of our life that we've like made accommodations for others. We've stepped into a role that wasn't where our heart was, right? It wasn't what we really wanted to do for some reason. And we did that, we justified that in our mind for all these different purposes, right? Whether it's something our parents wanted, or something our significant other wanted, or just something that society made us feel we needed to do in order to be a man or be a woman or be a whatever, right? We identified with this outcome as just what we were needed to do. So it takes so many different shapes. We start to see that that's not really in line with what is inside and what's wanted to express itself. And then so it becomes a task of going within and finding what that means. And I think really what it's all about is starting to align with that. So figure out what you're truly here to do. right? And I think we all feel that. We feel the call. Like, that's why we're tuned into this type of stuff. We feel the call to like help. And a lot of us are like, but how? Yeah, but okay. I like making drawings and stuff. Is that good enough? And we beat ourselves up a bit about it, and we get all excited about trying to help and not, but what do I do? And so luckily for me, I don't know what it was, but my whole life experience has prepared me to be a speaker of some kind. It's just obvious to me. So I knew when I woke up that part of it was going to be teaching, but I was like, oh my God, I don't know nearly enough to teach anything about any of this. And so luckily for me, like that sort of ego, right? That ego issue, that thinking mind issue that was telling me, oh no, you're not good enough. That was what pushed me into learning so much and being able to actually do this. And so that's why I wanted to talk about like how the ego is a catalyst for us to change. It's how we see what we don't want, right? We talk to ourselves in this horrible way, and then we're like, oh, that's actually not for me. Let's cool it on that. Let's get a little bit more breezy. And we start to see that that's all just fabrication anyway, right? It's not actually true. And then as we realize that, the shift can be instantaneous, and we're like, oh, actually I can do this, and I'll do this. And then it just comes into fruition, and it's as easy as pie. And so it almost feels like I didn't do anything, you know? It feels like nothing even happened. I'm just, you know, it's always been this way. But, you know, really, we can get so wrapped up in our judgment. We're almost taught from a very young age that judging others is what we do, right? Think about when you're a kid, like you're trying to just express yourself and test things, like that's how kids learn. And you would be doing things and you would get in trouble for various things and have no idea what the problem is, right? It'd be okay to throw this thing over there, but not this thing over there. And you're like, but where I want to throw stuff because it makes funny noises, and right? And so you're constantly being judged on your expression. And then as you get older, you judge each other on your expression, and kids like form little cliques and stuff like that, judge each other. And all the systems sort of, they sort of help form more cliques, more social gatherings of like-minded people. Not in exclusion of anyone necessarily, but so I'm not saying like groups of things are bad. I just mean that we start to develop prejudices and judgments based on what groups people have entangled with. Like, you know, you often hear stuff like hockey jocks or something act like these macho kind of assholes and things like that, which isn't the case. But it's like a template that gets applied to people and forms these belief structures. And so then we're constantly judging ourselves because that's how we think the world sees us too. And once we start to strip away those judgments, and each time it happens, we remind ourselves, actually, that's not for me. I don't judge myself like that. Or we turn it around and say, no, actually I do deserve this, or I deserve that. I'm capable of this, that type of thing. It's like a muscle. It starts to build strength, and the awareness of that fact over the ego illusion kills the illusion. And in the death of all these illusions, we come to the dark night of the soul. Some of you may have experienced this. I know this is a huge thing for everyone, so I wanted to kind of go through strategies a little bit, and how to get through it. So what I've found is that the dark night of the soul comes in varying degrees. For some, it's this dull but elongated spiritual depression. Others, it's a really sharp, deep spiritual depression that hits hard and doesn't quite go as long, but is still very problematic. And then other people have like almost mini dark nights of the soul sporadically. And I think what it has to do with is the amount of sort of awareness you shine on shadow in a given period of time. Essentially, like the more self-awareness and self-realization that occurs at one time, the more likely you are to trigger a deep. It's because what happens is you're disidentifying with the illusion of ego. The ego's constructed these houses of identification, and you look at the house with your awareness and go, oh my god, that house isn't even real, and it just starts to crumble. And so the peace or the solace or safety that your identity would find in that shelter is gone now. And so you feel, that part of you feels dead, and so, or dying. And that's where the dark night of the soul comes from. And it's all this, like, the stuff you used to care about, you're like, I don't really care though now. I wanted, and then you'll have like drawings or callings to do all these other things, but not enough either self-esteem, like, because you'll often talk bad about yourself here, or you also may feel disconnected spiritually. You'll talk yourself out of doing some of the things that you still feel called to do for different reasons. So what I found is important here is to try not to resist the feeling, because what we tend to do during these types of times is, instead of looking the feeling in the face and like dealing with it, we're almost trained to tuck it away somehow, distract ourselves from it, and ignore it. And all that does is, it means later it's just going to come back. And so to move through the dark night of the soul quicker, the best thing we can do is, as these deep feelings of resentment of self or guilt or fear, shame, whatever they are, when they come up, look right into its face and say, where did you start? Like, what started this? Because there's usually I think they call it the primal wound. There's usually an initial trauma that started that whole chain of trauma. Because if you think about it, like, we were abandoned one time in some fashion, and that's triggered us to feel like, oh, we're someone who's abandoned, and that's the wound. And then that wound can be cut a few more times and can be deepened through other experience, and it just solidifies that into our identity. And when we start to try and heal that, like, it hurts, because we see it and we look right into it, because we've formed this like layer of, we've stuffed it all with this fake stuff to like just make it feel like there's nothing there. And in a way, it's, you know, that's a shadow fragment of ourself that we've tucked away. And in that case, it would be the person that feels like they can't be abandoned, right? The person that feels like they have all they need already. They don't need external. And so it can come from so many different places. It typically forms when we're a kid, and then something builds on it, or multiple times will build on it. And our higher self will direct us into I hear screaming children. Our higher self will direct us into experience that will show us this shadow and allow us to face it. It gives us opportunities to face the shadow and see it, and then heal that part of us, because the higher self's goal is unification. Hey Leo, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. Good to see you. And so that's important too, is we need to start to see that we construct, like, our higher self is us in the future, right? We construct the reality that we need to see in order to bring fragments of ourselves back home. The shadow aspects of ourselves, the shadow consciousness fragments that we've tucked away and hidden away. That's the whole kit and caboodle, they might say somewhere. But that's the whole thing. And so Paul, no, there's not a set format. I'm just talking. Mostly I'm just talking, getting out what I need to say, and then I'll like go to Q&A and stuff. It's an interactive thing. No, I'm just kind of spitting out the downloads that I've been getting today. So anyways, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so we're creating the experience that we need to see in order to integrate the shadow that we've repressed. So that's why, you know, as I grew up, I kept having these people come into my lives and abandon me, or feel like they abandoned me, because I needed to be abandoned so many times, until I could finally pull my own power into myself and be like, oh, actually, I don't need anyone. All I need is here. And oh, I don't like when that's in there. I like to expose my necklaces. But all I need is what's inside, right? And I don't need this external validation. And when we start to like really get that, it's like how do I describe it? It's like a wave of just understanding about our own value and how we were misunderstanding our own value the whole time. And so for me, it made me feel gratitude for all the times that I felt abandoned, because it's what led me to see my own self-worth, and empower me into that understanding. I wouldn't have experienced it. It's the funniest thing. So like in order to heal something like abandonment, you have to be abandoned, right? A download is when I get messages from my spirit team. It's what I call like a sort of, it's like a package that I receive that helps me to formulate, and then I have to sort of let it out, either write it down or somehow deliver it. And so for me, it's typically information that comes from different places. Normally my spirit guides will deliver downloads to me. I have spirit guides, 6 of them that they work on my what would be called my star team, and then I have 2 dragons that I talk with pretty regularly, and then I have Merlin as well. Well, he's like a masculine wizard who calls himself Merlin. I think he's sort of the father of wizardry in many ways. And these spirit guides shifted for me a lot throughout my awakening and throughout my coming into my magical understandings as well. I became a druid and started studying magic, which is, I think, when Merlin really came in, and I started really working with nature a lot and the elements, and that's really where my dragons and stuff started coming in, and it was them who led me back to my star team, which was always there. So it's kind of a roundabout tale, but so downloads are when one of my guides gives me like a package of information, and I get them all the time. Some of them are more like, some of them are mind-blowing, to be honest. Some of them are just minor things. But just lately I've started feeling really called now to share them. I started feeling like they were telling me that I needed to share these downloads, that there are other people talking about the same things that I am, and I just need to add my voice to that conversation, because the more perspectives we throw at it, the more lines and pathways in the collective consciousness we vibrate out into the universe, and more people can dive into those thought patterns and sort of expand their own awareness, if that makes sense. So the more and more people talk about this stuff, the better. And the multiple perspectives are all welcome as well. So this is all just my perspective based on things I've read. And if I say anything weird too that like you need reference for, just ask me and I'll try to think of where I got that from. Or if it was a download, you know, like, I don't know, downloads come from wherever they come from. Um, and I've as a very sort of scientifically minded person my whole life, I've spent most of my time during my awakening trying to disprove my own intuitive knowings. So that's something I think is pretty normal for somebody that didn't feel psychic, but then sort of started stepping into it. You start to need to prove it to yourself, right? So you'll start to have these knowings and start to have usually a journal of some kind, and you'll think of these different things, and you'll test yourself really, and that's pretty normal. And so now I've tested myself enough and got enough of these things to just sort of have enough faith in it. Like, I don't know, if it told me to just go somewhere immediately and that was super important, I would just pick up everything and leave. Like, it's I trust it beyond any way I could really describe now. It's actually saved my life a few times as well. So, do I know what dimension the dragons are in? I've never really asked them that. I know that it would be an energetic dimension, that they're not currently in sort of the visual spectrum. I know that occasionally they manipulate the physical environment to sort of signify that they're there. They'll do that through synchronicities, typically using the clouds, I find, because the clouds are really easy for them to manipulate without using like a bunch of energy, just because of the sort of the flowy nature. But no, I don't know what dimension they are. I also I don't know. I think also if we start to put too many, like, multidimensionality is complicated. And so I try not to talk too much about that, because maybe I should talk more about it, because it's something that I do fairly regularly. And it's something that Phil Goods talked about a little bit, where when you're he talks about it doing walks. I think he said walks, wizard walks, and I do druid walks. And druids are a type of wizard. And the wonderful thing about wizards is that wizards are wonderful things. So there's this walk that I do around in a circle, and while I'm doing it, and I'm doing it around, typically around my proximity, right? Like I'll walk around where I'm sleeping, and it will be outside, and in that time I'm communing with nature, and I'm anchoring light into the earth. I'm doing that through channeling putting my consciousness in another realm, in another dimension, while maintaining sort of the physicality, and doing the walk and tuning in with nature. And I do that. I started doing that out of just sort of self-development and practice, and understanding the magical systems, through studying, basically, and through the assistance of my spirit guides. It was very self-directed. There's a couple of books I can recommend, but as well. When does the energy settle? I don't think it's going to settle too much. I think we're going to feel a lot of movement and upheaval for a while now, because all of the retrograde planets are typically retrogrades, as I understand it, help give the energy of sort of introspection. And so we're looking inside a lot, looking inside, and then it comes into Leo season, which is about energy or action, right? So we've been looking inside at all the different things and assessing what we want out of the next 30 years of our life or something. And then we move into doing that, enacting that in the physical world. So we spend all this time manifesting, bringing into the universe our thoughts about how we want things to be. And then we sort of, right, and start enacting all of that. So that's why as well, like everything starts off as energy first, right? Well, it's always energy. So it's energy, it's just transmuted. It's all energy, right? But when how am I saying this? So when you're feeling something, that was energy that you've transmuted into that feeling, if that makes sense. And and a lot of I lost track of what I was saying. What the heck was I saying there? Oh, and about introspection. And so when we're looking inside, and the universe is sort of giving us this go energy, this fire energy, it seems like we're more likely to transmute this emotional energy into like um, move it towards a plan of attack. It's like the universe facilitates or magnetizes certain types of energetic transmutation. That's what my theory is, and why we're drawn to act in certain ways. And when the universe has different energies, we're drawn to act those other ways. And if we act away from that, we experience like a discordance, like we experience resistance, and things aren't flowing because we're not acting in alignment with ourselves and the universe. And the universe is us. So it is ourselves. Whoa. So yeah. So now I think I might try doing a reading. I want to try my new Druid Oracle deck, and it's an animal Oracle deck. And this is just going to be a reading for sort of the collective and sort of everybody that resonates with like awakening right now. That feels like they're on that awakening path. Something that we can hopefully help us through. So here, this is the deck we're going to use. Druid Animal Oracle. I'm going to actually read the book because I haven't had a chance to read the book yet. So I'm going to see what the book says for these cards. Actually, I'm going to shift to my other camera too. Look at this fanciness. Look at that. It's working. So I got my second camera set up, so we'll be able to actually look at the cards as they come down. And hopefully this works well, and you guys can hear me okay, and everything looks fine. And we can see everything on my old Doughty table. And that rune there, that rune means the sun, which is so this is my rune. When I received my naming, I was named Ka, son of dragons. And that story's in the first stream if you're interested in it, but Spirit just guided me to reach my hand into the rune bag, and I just pulled that one out, so I just thought it would like kind of empower what we're doing today. How's everybody's day going so far? Energies are heavy, I would say. That's how they feel to me, heavy. Lots of stuff happening, lots of upheaval, internal upheaval, I think. Not necessarily external yet, but it's on the horizon, I think, is how it feels for me. That was the first card I pulled was a wild card. So, Crane. Ooh, Hawk. Bear. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to read these out, and then I'll just say kind of how I interpret them. I'll just read it from the book, if you guys don't mind. I have my intuition about it, but because I haven't used this deck, like it feels better to like just read some of it. We'll see how it's laid out though too. I haven't really looked into this one. Crane. Secret knowledge, patience, longevity. So I think that's talking about how we're coming into sort of knowledge that would be considered secret, right? It's the secret of our creator status, the secret of our I am presence, right? So it brings the qualities of patience and perseverance. The crane will stand for hours, peering into the water until the time is right for it to dart at its prey. Combined with the ability to be patient, the crane conveys the capacity to be focused and to be able to concentrate without distraction. It brings an ability to guide others into the underworld, to help them with their transition at the time of dying, or with their journeying in the inner realms. Wow. As well as conveying an ability to work in the underworld. The crane symbolizes arcane science, secret knowledge, which in the Druid tradition is represented by the Ogham script, the tree language of Druidry. In its widest sense, learning this language involves learning to read the book of nature. That's awesome. And so isn't that what we do sort of as light workers too? We jump into the darkness to shine the light on it, right? And we do that with our loved ones as well, right? We whether we mean to or not, we often are catalysts for their growth by showing them something within themselves that they need to shift, right? And we don't even do it with, we shouldn't be doing it with judgment. We should be trying to do it with compassion and love. But sometimes the compassionate thing to do is to not say anything at all. This is something I've had to really learn. Sometimes the compassionate thing to do is to be the crane and just be patient for them and just understand that you have some knowledge that's secret. You have some information that they're not ready for, maybe, due to their own spiritual advancement and their own path, which is absolutely perfect for them, that they've designed. Maybe it's the compassionate thing to do is to let them keep their illusion, because that's what they want for themselves right now, right? And it can be hard because we feel lonely as well. So we are doing it out of a place of a bad place sometimes, a place that we think is good, but you know, it's not really in alignment. So the hawk is nobility, recollection, cleansing. It shows a Merlin, the smallest of the hawks, perched on a cliff above a beach. That's awesome that it's called Merlin, and I was just talking about Merlin. Of course. These are the type of synchronicities that I get all day, and I love it. I love it so much. It makes me just so in awe at the wonder of the universe. On which two Beltane fires. It's drawn, and in the foreground to the left, hawk's beard is growing, with a common hawkbit to the right. The hawk's mate, a female Merlin, flies high above the beach. So it brings the ability to see your life in perspective, to free you of unnecessary baggage, and to connect you to your ancestral roots. See if you can take some time out of your daily routine to survey your life calmly and see events in context. The hawk can help you recollect missing pieces of the jigsaw you'll be trying to assemble, and he will help to spot the details which are significant. When you have a sense of your roots and the breadth of your life, you will start to feel pride and a growing sense of nobility and stature. Once you know where you have come from and where you're going, your life will be filled with inspiration and enthusiasm. You'll sense a new day dawning, and you'll be able to make decisions with confidence. So what this really means for me is like I was talking about with remembering that remember I am. We should take time out of our day every day to remember that we are creator. I am. And, just set time aside. Remember that. Remember your nobility, your divinity, your virtuous intent, that you are light. That's what this means for me. And cleansing. Because that allows you to see things from a different perspective. And when we see things from the higher perspective, we start to see that we actually created these scenarios with soul agreements, soul contracts with the other person in order to catalyze growth between both of us. So all of it is good. And we can just thank the individual for that experience. And because we've already seen that from that higher perspective, and if we can step into that while it's occurring, that's the true power, because now we can be grateful for the experience while it's occurring, and then all we can show them is love and compassion. And when we do that, that's awesome. You asked the same thing last stream, Himanshu. I'm not falling for it again. I'm not falling for it. Welcome to the stream, though. I'm glad you're here a second time. What is spirituality? I'm not going to answer it. I won't. It's whatever you want it to be, my man. Or my woman. I guess I just said that hi man shoe. So I'll go to the bear. Let's see what the bear means. Primal power, sovereignty, intuition married with instinct. So it shows a bear standing by a cave entrance with a mace at its feet. Such a mace was found by archaeologists near Stonehenge. Oh, cool. In the time of Albin Arthwin, the light of Arthur, at winter solstice, a crown lies in the foreground and we see the pole star shining brightly above the constellation of the plow, also known as the Great Bear or Arthur's Plow. Wow, I didn't know any of that. Art connects you with the very deepest of your ancestral roots. Here, at this level, you're in touch with the primal mother. The bear goddess, Artio, will defend you fiercely from all danger. You're connected with the bear god, Arteos, the mighty warrior Arthur, the guiding pole star of the Great Bear. Your intuition will never fail you if you will listen to it listen to it in the still darkness of the night. Working with the bear gives you the opportunity to become a spiritual warrior. Like Arthur, you can find the way to come into your power by marrying your strength with your intuition. Integrating your primal power with your intuition means uniting your star power and with your animal power. Both are symbolized by Art the bear. So, for me, this means, the way I interpret this is really uniting the creation power of the divine feminine, like the womb of the divine feminine and the masculine energy of and power of the divine masculine, and coming into balance with that helps you come into your true nature and your true power. And what I'll say too is that when we come into balance with that, we start to be open to giving and receiving simultaneously. We stop blocking the receiving. We stop pushing from people giving to us because we understand that we have value and we'll take what is given. If that makes sense. So we have our one hand out to receive and one hand out to give. And when we start doing that, it's our manifestations start to flow in much more rapidly because we're allowing space for them because we deserve them. We understand our deserving, how much we deserve things. I gotta wipe that table. It's a little sticky and a little nasty. So I'm gonna put those cards aside so I can clean them later. I guess I missed a spot. I thought I wiped it down, but whatever. So what'd you guys think of that? You just found a hawk feather in the yard. Oh yeah, I saw that. That's awesome. I've been seeing hawks all over the place. Another meaning for the hawk is a symbol to remind us that we may be seeing things from a higher perspective that not all people can see. So it reminds us to be subtle with our wisdom and the way we approach sharing our wisdom with others, because sometimes we can be a little brash, right? We can dump on someone and make our, because we're just trying to help, but we're trying to highlight some sort of error in thinking, but we're kind of stepping on their toes in some way, or we're frustrating them, or we're giving them too much for them to chew on right now. And so we can be more subtle in our approach, a little bit more understanding that they're not seeing the full perspective that we're seeing right now. I think I've said a couple different times that same kind of message. I have a calling now. I just heard fairies. Like giggling or something. Yeah, I'm weird. I'm strange. So I work with the Fae sometimes, although they're a tricksy little bunch, so I can never be sure what they're trying to tell me. It seems like the messaging they give me is always wacky, so I'm going to do some cards from the Fae here and see what they have coming through. if they want to give us guidance. They always have interesting things to say, that's for sure. I wanted to thank everyone for being here as well. I appreciate all your time and attention and everything like that. I hope everyone's having a splendid time. And if there's any questions about anything I've said, let me know in the comments. This is meant to be, back and forth, interactive, group thing in many ways. Sometimes I'll have like a particular thing I want to talk about and I'll talk about that. But after that, I like to just do back and forths and stuff like that. All right, so let's see what we got here. Ooh. Oh, I gotta switch the camera. I need a production assistant. So that says fairy lovers, new love, courtship, falling in love. Come, this is your invitation to enter the realm of the fairy. Oh my God. Of course, the Merlin. I told you they mess with me. So, let me just see this again. Guidance, mentorship, teacher of the old ways. So this, for me, I think is just trying to... I think there's people in here, in the way that I'm feeling this energy is that there's people that are watching this that have felt the Fae calling, maybe, that are maybe, not thinking about it. So often for me, they call with singing, and you can tell it's Fae because they have that high-pitched kind of girly voice that I cannot do. And they'll giggle and stuff, and sometimes they'll show as little orbs. Although typically they don't like to be seen. They just like to play with you in an auditory type of way, in my experience. And then if we start to give them little, so what I did was I got little fairy houses, and I gave them little chakra stones in the fairy houses and stuff like that. I'd give little gifts. That's when they came into my life more. And so it's that's what I'm getting there, is that there's people here that have a connection to the Fae realm. Maybe it's through ancestry, and if you or your family is from Europe, very likely there's a tie there, and I would say that it's something that sort of knocking on the door for you to jump into, and through that, it looks like it's going to lead to guidance in the old ways. The Fae are ancient, right? And through that connection, it could lead to major spiritual growth. That's sort of what I'm getting out of this. But you have to be willing to follow. There's a lot of myths and negative information out there about fairies. Don't buy into any of that. Fairies they're not bad. They're just not bad. And now I want to do a reading of the gods. I'm feeling called for that as well. And I'll also do a starseed reading, because I think that would be a good way to sort of round things out. But the gods call. Let's see what the gods say. This is one of my favorite decks. I don't know why. I just love it. And it's, I'll just show you the artwork on the front here. Gods and Titans by Stacy DeMarco. All right. What do you have to say for us, gods and titans of old? Thank you for your guidance and your wisdom. What a wonder to behold. All right. Shiva, Destroyer. I was talking about how our growth is all about destruction. Travel. Garuda. Prometheus, altruism. So what I'm getting from this is in sort of the call to be a light worker, light warrior, you know, rainbow warrior of the 144,000. I sense some of you here with me. What I think is and that may be right now or it may be in the future. I just sense the energy. If you're not familiar with the Hopi prophecy, go check it out. If I said rainbow warrior or of the 144,000, if that resonated with you, check out the Hopi prophecy. It may be something that you want to research. But it's all about destruction of what doesn't serve, and then an inner. So I see this Garuda energy as travel, but it's inner travel. It's travel to the darkness that used to be there, traveling there with awareness, and then using our altruistic nature to heal ourselves, sort of healing ourselves with our own love. Does that make sense? Thank you, Mysteriously Kind. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. This is fairly new to me. I've only been reading Oracle cards and tarot and stuff for maybe 6 months. Not too long, actually. I didn't realize it was that short, though. But that's what I'm getting from this. And so we heal ourselves through our own sort of altruism for ourselves. And but we have to travel to the darkness that we destroyed, you know, that we obliterated with our light. We have to travel there and then look at it. And if we don't look at it, we can neglect it. But what'll happen is it sort of becomes reinforced with more darkness, and then we have to sort of break it again. And so we sort of create cycles. That's why we repeat the same things, right? That's why, you know, if we're dating the same type of person all the time, we will constantly sort of recreate that because we aren't learning the lesson. We're not shining the light of awareness on the actual lesson that's at hand for us. And so we keep calling the lesson to us so that we can see it eventually. And we'll see parts of it. Like we'll even recognize that we're doing this as a pattern, but that's not the lesson. The lesson isn't to see that we do this as a pattern. The lesson is to stop that pattern, right? So yeah, it's interesting. And so now I'll do a starseed reading. I hope these are resonating with everyone. I'm going to start offering one-on-one readings, probably on Fiverr. Would you guys be interested in that at all? Like if I set up private one-on-one readings for a small fee? I'm not sure if I want to do that or not. Just gauging interest. Let me know, and if the video's up in the comments and you're interested, let me know, just so I can gauge interest. I'm not sure if I want to go through all that. I see a yes from Marty. Awesome. Okay. One person says yes, then we're off to the races. That's all I need. Where did I put that deck? Oh, there it is. I've got so many decks and not nearly enough. Not nearly enough. And I'm sure if you collect decks or you read it yourself, you thank you guys for all the support, all the yeses in the chat. I love that. Thank you so much. I'll start doing that then. You guys are the best. I appreciate you so much. I love your faces. All right. So let's see what messages we have for the starseeds. And you know, if you're not a starseed or you don't resonate with that, that's totally fine. Everything that I talk about here is, you know, for everyone. and like we're all one, right? We're all doing this together. So it doesn't really matter. The wisdom that's given here by the starseed, by my star team is going to apply to everybody. So the first one is, you're not for everyone. Embrace your weirdness. Oh, you can't see that too good. It's kind of, there's like a glare on it. Let me just hold that up there. You're not for everyone. Embrace your weirdness. Surrender to the sweetness. Venus energy. Pleasure, joy. Make love to life. Settle down, Venus. Jeez. Water your garden. Nourishment, body care, tenderness, rest. So I don't know about you guys, but all week long I've been like sleepy. I've been super sleepy, just sleeping. And I think this is you know, this is fitting. But so you're not for everyone. Embrace your weirdness. JP Sears has a TEDx talk about being weird, embracing your weirdness. I encourage everyone to check it out. It's really good. JP Sears is that dude that does those funny, I think he's got that like spiritual as fuck branded shirts and stuff like that. But anyway, he just does funny spiritual awakening videos and sort of social commentary, things like that. But then the other thing is surrender to the sweetness. So basically, embracing your weirdness will let you become comfortable enough to not be sort of in your head about your own weirdness and how people are perceiving you. So it sort of creates this comfort zone where you can be more natural, and you can start to sort of embrace your true self and fall into your alignment, which feels it feels like heaven. It feels like, that's the best way I could describe it. When you're acting in your truth and with a clear conduit to source, it feels like you're home. And when you're not worried about other people thinking you're weird, and you've embraced that weirdness, which is one of the reasons that I did that stream for like talking about where I came from and all that, my origin story, is to just jump into all that weird stuff, because I was embracing a bunch of it, but not diving right in. And this is sort of just a reminder of that for the collective, because so many of us, we like hold it back. And it doesn't mean you have to like go online and proclaim to the world. I just did that because of the role that I'm to take in this whole thing. Whether I wanted to or not, but well, I do want to, but sometimes I'm like, maybe I'd rather just chill. But nevertheless, hey, Tender Green Heart, welcome. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks for joining, man. It's good to have you here. So, and then the last thing here is water your garden. Rest, tenderness, body care, nourishment. So remember that we're in physical vessels, so we can have our head in the clouds. And sometimes when we're connected in with Source a lot, and we are channeling a lot of that energy, we almost feel like we don't have to eat or sleep. We just don't feel tired and stuff like that. And I think this is a reminder that like we have limits, we have like physical vessels, and until we've sort of really mastered that connection, like that's why like you do see monks and different people that are like self-mastered, energetic, very proficient with their energy. They handle their self, right? They handle their energy very well, and they don't need, like, it's sort of they've mastered their body, and we're not there yet. So unless you're there, make sure to nourish yourself and be gentle with your body, and work on rest. And one of the things that I was doing was polyphasic sleep. And so I was doing that for a long time because it was working really well. And then my body shifted again and I fell out of it. So it's, and then I feel like it might come back. It sort of depends. I'm just trying to ride the wave of whatever works for me, right? And I feel like too, it's saying pamper yourself, like do something for yourself that like makes you feel good, that like it helps to remind you that you're worth like pampering, right? So for me, I used to go to this place and get my beard like shaved with like a straight razor and stuff like that. So but I don't know if they're even open, but if they were, that's what I would do. Just as an example, it could be anything like that. Just reward yourself for like being yourself. It doesn't even have to be for anything. And let's round it off with some tarot from Thoth, the Thoth Deck. And I'm new at reading these, so bear with me. Bear with me. But I've been sort of practicing with them, and this deck for some reason feels really special to me. When I got it from the lady at the store, I put it in this special box, and then the box shattered because it was like it didn't want to be contained, is how I felt. I'm like, whoa. And I haven't felt that sort of power from any of my other decks. So I started researching this guy, Aleister Crowley. He's sort of the father of magic in the, sort of the modern sense of magic. And he created his own religion, really. And he wrote the Book of the Law, I think it's called, which is a really interesting read. And it's very similar to like the Law of One in many ways. And so I've been sort of studying that as well. I felt drawn to. All right, let's see what we got. The Magus. I wish it wasn't so shiny. Why is it so shiny? I have no idea. I'll work on that for next time. Let me try just showing you. The Magus. Knight of Wands. Death. And so I'm going to clarify these. Whoops. Clarify these as well. Cruelty. Victory. The Priestess. Ah, okay. All right. So here's how I'm interpreting this. And again, I'm new to this deck, but this is strongly what I'm no, I sorry, Heather. I don't feel bad necessarily. I just wanted to sort of make sure that people were into it. That's sort of the thing. I don't feel bad necessarily, but I've been questioning, you know, what I should do for money. Unfortunately, money is still a thing we need. Oh, and so the shadow energy on the deck too. The bottom energy is science. And so here's what this tells me. The Magus is about us coming into our magic. We step into our magic and we shine so brightly. And so what that's caused in our environment around us is what we perceive to be cruelty. Like they see our brightness and they sort of take that as an affront to their own being, and they perceive that as an attack on them. And so what happens is we then come into this. The people in our lives will often do something to us, and I'm not getting an energy for a particular type of person necessarily, but just one of our relationships, right? One of our close relationships will see how bright we're getting, and then do something to kind of extinguish that, right? Try to put that flame out. And we'll perceive that as cruelty because we'll be like, why are you doing this to me? Because as far as we're understanding, we didn't do anything to cause this type of behavior. We didn't trigger this as far as we're aware, right? And we we will then ride into battle, right? And this Knight of Wands here, right? It sort of ignites a passion in us. And ultimately it will lead us to victory within. Not victory fighting, because we'll start to see there's no purpose to the fight. We're fighting them for no reason. That really we're just fighting ourselves. And we're fighting our own shadow fragment of ourselves. And what we're experiencing with this person is a reflection of what we have inside. It's a reflection of a piece of us that needs to be healed. And so what we'll usually see is it will go either way. Sometimes we'll see it within. Other times we'll recognize that we need to forgive that person. And by forgiving them, we're forgiving ourselves too. So it kind of, it goes both ways. And so if you're more comfortable though, you forgive yourself for that peace within you and show yourself compassion and in the process, forgive them for their trespass, for they didn't know what they were doing. Like Jesus said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And the other thing he did was, he washed the feet of all those, like including Judas, who he knew was going to betray him. They know not what they do, right? They're unconscious. It's an unconscious behavior. It's also behavior that you signed up for with them, right? You made this agreement from a higher plane of understanding, a higher frequency of knowingness. And you have to try to trust in that divine plan, because what it leads to death of the old self, of the old identifications. As we come into victory over the self that feels threatened by this like external, what's the word? Like this external vibe attacking us. We get victory over that, and then it transmutes that into death, which is a beautiful thing. And I wear the phoenix right here, and it symbolizes for me that death is a chance. It's part of the cycle, and it's rebirth. That's all it is. It's the cycle of life. It's the full cycle, and it doesn't end at death. It begins anew at death. Death is the first birth, I like to say, because nothing can truly finish its cycle until it ends, right? Until there's an ending. All things must end if they're in form, and whether it's thought form or physicality, all things must come to an end, and the end is what can present the new beginning. So, and then you'd see here too, coming into the priestess, divine understanding, spiritual balance, and with the science card on the shadow aspect here, there's a layer of, I think, starting to understand. A lot of times we feel pulled to pull away from the human body, right? We start to feel like, oh, why can't we just go home to the stars, or home to the realm that we came from? Or why can't we just disconnect from this because this is like hell? And I think what we start to understand is that this isn't hell, that this is the catalyst for our experience. Like, this is what it is intended to be. And the magic is with all the interactions, whether positive or negative, because everything's more dense here. It gives us so much more opportunity to experience like feeling and emotion and stuff like that. That's why this realm exists, is to be in this density so that the experience of emotion can be real. If you think about the higher realms, everything's happening so quickly. Manifestations are instant. And there isn't negative catalyst. There's, you're not being catalyst. There's no catalyst in the same way that we have it here. so we don't have the spectrum. We don't have all the opportunity to feel as deeply. It's all love in those higher dimensions, right? It's all love and light, which is great, right? But in order for us to truly understand light, we have to see the darkness first, and that's sort of what we've signed up for. So, and that's why we have to have parts of us die. The darkness in us has to die to the light, and then we become alchemists and transmute that, and transmute that lead into gold, and then we are rich and abundant, and we start to understand. Oh, actually, it was like this the whole time. I was always this. Nothing's changed. I just kind of shifted perspective. So, yeah, I hope that resonates. And I was wondering, I was going to open it up for any Q&A. Here, I'll go back to the face cam. So I was going to close out the stream probably, but do some Q&A. Does anyone have any questions about anything I've talked about, either in a video or in this stream, the last stream, any of the reading stuff that I was doing, anything like that? Because this place is what it is, that can be a big reason to keep it alive, so it can continue to be what it is, but maybe in a better way if we really try. Absolutely, yeah. And that's what this is all about, and that's why this is. In my last video, in my last stream, I said this is like winning the Galactic Incarnation Lottery. It's such a special time. We haven't done this before, not like this. So we have two or maybe three timelines right now, operating sort of simultaneously. We have the 3D and the 5D, and some say that there's a third. And so I won't speak to that because I don't know enough about it. But what I'll say is that, you can see it in your reality. You can see others experiencing a very different reality than what you're experiencing. You can witness them in their suffering. And that's just not what you're seeing, right? Like, at least for me, I see a beautiful world that's full of magic and wonder. And then people show me, like, they start to talk about how horrible this place is. And I'm like, I don't get it, right? And so it's up to us, though, to keep in what we do is, as an individual, when I project that view of the world out, I'm building that into the collective consciousness as a light worker. That's what we do. That's what we do. And as we do that, we create more capacity for others to see it in that way. And that's why, for some reason, it was important for me to be so vocal about all of this. Do I follow Corey Good? I wouldn't say I follow him. I've read some of his stuff a little bit. What do you want to know about Corey Good? Or is there a particular reason you're curious? I can speak to, like, I've worked with the Blue Avians a little bit, very little bit, and he did as well. He used to call them blue orbs, I think. And recently he's identified them as being raw, I believe. So I believe I have a connection into raw in some form or another. But I haven't followed, like, the whole story, and I don't know tons about the Secret Space program. I've watched a little bit of David Wilcox as well, and I think those guys are doing important work. I don't detect a lot of deception or anything like that in any of their efforts. Although what I'll say is they are what I would feel like they both seem very tied to this 3D experience still, which is why they feel so pulled to assist. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're working directly with Galactic Enterprise on some agenda. And so what I'll say is I can't necessarily see what the agenda is, because some of the information that they give is deceptively fear-based. It's deceptively fear-based, it feels to me. I'm not judging them at all. I don't know their content well enough to judge. And especially David Wilcox, what I've seen of him, he seems pretty, like, happy-go-lucky kind of guy, right? But I think maybe they're operating from a fear mentality or a lack mentality, which is what I'm seeing projected maybe, and maybe that just feels off to me, so I'm not sure. Can I see just sense if other people's are sons? I can sense dragon spirits around people, yeah, usually. But typically you'll know yourself. Dragons don't hide from you typically. In my experience, they are very powerful and upfront, and they don't tiptoe in. At least not in my experience, or in the experience that I've had. Aaron Abkey, Aaron Doughty. Yeah, I'm familiar with those guys. Aaron Doughty made a video that was one of the ones that I watched like when I first woke up, and every so often I check in on his stuff. He's a little like I think he's doing great work, and I like how he distills information. He's kind of like me, like he's a sponge for information, and then he distills it. I think he's doing good work, and I like how he shows a really good example of how you can, like, he's very upfront about it, that he is a sort of coach and mentor, and he has these workshops, programs, and different things that he sells, and he shows that you can build your life through manifestation, and that you can live abundantly through doing what you love, because he's doing what he loves in front of you. And so I like that about him. Aaron, I like how meticulous he is. Aaron Abke, he's very meticulous. He distills information really well. He's also very aware of himself. He's very self-aware. You can tell that he's the type of guy that goes through the stuff like a billion times himself before he says anything to anybody about it. Like, you can tell he's dropping quotes from Law of One and A Course in Miracles. You can tell he's gone through the content so many times to try and become an expert. And that's why I appreciate his stuff so much. He actually recently started a series that I really recommend, called Remember I Am. I haven't seen all of it yet, but the first episode was, or I don't know if it was a premiere or what it was, but it was really good anyway. And everything he makes is stellar. So maybe speak a one-on-one setting when you have time. Yeah, if you add me on Instagram, let me type my Instagram thing in. You guys can DM me. I usually ask my spirit guides, so it's HowToHero1 on Instagram. I usually ask my spirit guides to help me determine like how much, what needs to happen with this individual. So like I have limited time, obviously, and but I will chat with everybody. Yeah, for sure. Soothe the glitch. No, I don't know that, Marty. Soothe the glitch. Sounds interesting. Ralph Smart's good. I love Ralph Smart's energy. Sometimes he's what's the word? Yeah. Please share with me. Yeah. Add me on DM me on Instagram, or follow me there, and I'll add you back. Usually I'll add everyone that follows me most of the time. And message me there, and then I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Phoenix energy? Yeah, actually, I wear a phoenix right here. And when I was going through my ring ceremony, I call it, when I was being born into my dragon energy, I guess, embodying the energy and the physicality, that's when I got the septum piercing. At the time, I was drawn to it to represent my Taurus ascending sign. But later I was told, no, it was my dedication to the dragon energy. And then it was part of like my naming. That was one of the stages that I had to do to dedicate myself to my dragonhood. I'll check it out. Trinius Henderson. I'll check it out. And then like on the 22nd, there was a comet. The 22nd was the day of my naming, and there was a comet that came close to Earth. It only comes every like 6,000 years or something. I can't remember the name of the comet now, but the comet brings is called like Neo something. which it means like new wisdom. And it's just so weird. There's all these little signs. I'm finding them out after that they all happened on the same day, and the day that I was like told my name and my start team and stuff like that. Is that it? Neowise? The comment? That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, Aaron made a video, something about star seeds, and so I was watching that one, and it was making me go like, ah, starseed, blah. And your guides are screaming at me to connect with you for 3 days now. Oh, really, Heather? Yeah, reach out on Instagram. Instagram's the easiest way to get in touch with me one-on-one, and then we can see. I wonder if that's been you. There's been a couple different guides sort of knocking, but I can't distinguish where it's coming from, so I don't just welcome it in usually. Well, there's 2 Heathers in the house then, at least. Yeah, just message me on Instagram, and we'll have a chat. Yeah, sometimes just hearing the term starseed seems to wake starseeds up, right? Just hearing that, and then starting to hear you're a multidimensional being, like it starts to go, oh yeah, yes, yeah, I know I am, right? So that's what tends to happen, and that's one of the reasons that I started to make this content, is to just help people that are starting to awaken to that, and even people that don't resonate with that specific thing, that specific pathway. I try to make the content work for them as well. So because star seeds aren't special in any way, they're not further along necessarily. Everybody's on their path at the same, like at the particular place they need to be. Pleiadians in the house. Yeah, I when I was forming my team, my star team, we were deciding between 2 Pleiadians or 2 Andromedans, and we decided that I was already boisterous enough. I was already sort of, you know, I don't even know what the word is, but like out and showing myself enough. I didn't need Pleiadians pushing me to show myself more and be more like that. Shadow figures are negative energies or something different. I've had one following me around for about a month now. Shadow figures, negative energies. So I don't have experience with shadow figures per se. What I'll say to that is it sounds like you're sensitive to shadow or dark polarization of energy. And typically these energies are not what I would call fully sentient. They're more like parasitic. They're like parasites, almost like non-intelligent parasitic type entities that will latch on to us. And I think people that can see the shadow figures are seeing they're seeing these entities represented in a way that makes sense to them, maybe. But it all depends, because some people aren't as sensitive. Like, I haven't seen that, right? I mean, maybe I did 1 or 2 times, but I'm not certain on it. But my theory is that I know that as human beings, one of the things that we're here to do is to be transmutation or transmutators of dark into light. We bring dark into our awareness, we shine brightness on it and give it love and turn it into light. And so these parasitic entities that feed off of our fear, they'll grow in their darkness off of our fear, which can manifest in different ways, like shame, guilt. But it's all fear. It's the opposite of love is fear, right? So anything based in fear is something that's coming from these negative attachments usually. These negative attachments will influence sort of our ego and stuff like that too, and how we self-talk, and it's like it dirties our energy. And I think when we see the shadow people, it's representative of some of the energies that's following us, maybe. So it could be our senses making us aware of the energy that's with us. But I don't see it as like a foe, like a, like I don't see it as like an enemy, right? Or anything that we need to be scared of. Fear is an illusion. Like there's such thing as safety, right? And making sure we're safe. But fear is, somebody said it's false evidence appearing real. I don't know where that quote came from. I've seen a couple people say it, but false evidence appearing real. And it's stuff that we see that makes us scared, right? We get scared of it because we believe it to be true, or we believe it to hold a threat to us. But in our perfection, we cannot be threatened, right? We are sovereign beings. We're in control of our systems, in control of our energy, and anything that is on our systems, negative energies, entities, whatever, it's all been allowed there by us via our consent. Like we've allowed it there so that we can eventually see it and heal it, if you think of it that way. Because we're master divine planners of our being, we generated this for us. Whether it's a dark entity or not, we generated this experience as creator of experience itself. Otherwise, this would not occur, right? Now, there are different schools of thought on that. This is where I land because I choose to believe that I am. And if I am, then I am this as well. So it's draining energy. If you feel it's draining energy, again, we have to come back to the fact that our energy is sovereign to us. So that means we're giving it energy. Where awareness flows, energy goes. Or energy goes where awareness flows, whatever that rhyme is, vice versa, right? So where we're focusing attention, especially if it's, if our beliefs create our reality. The stories and narratives we tell ourselves create the reality, literally. It all is our, how we see things inside is projected outside. So if we see that this situation drains us, that situation will continue to drain us. If we start to see, no, that situation actually just doesn't do anything to me, no thank you, oftentimes it'll just sort of fall away from our reality because we're not giving it any power. And a lot of this happens, I should say, subconsciously. So like what I'm saying may not make a lot of sense to you because it's almost like the brain doesn't realize it's doing that because we rationalize everything so much. The brain just explains away things constantly to us, and it lies. It lies about things. Like for example, there's a black spot right in the middle of your sight that that you don't see because the brain manufactures fake optical input there. For example, like the brain just lies about everything. So it doesn't just lie about everything, but it if it doesn't know the answer, it just fabricates one out of thin air. So I am everything and I am nothing. I am the darkness and the light. Yes. Absolutely. What are your thoughts on fasting and spiritual intent? For example, fasting on the day of the week you were born or during a new moon. What I'll say about that, I think fasting's really, if it's done in a healthy way, it's a really valuable tool because it cleanses the system and allows for more energy, like more light energy to come in without being obstructed with what seems to be like gunking up the systems. So if it's done in a healthy way, I'm all for it. As for the time that you do it, there's certainly, I would say 100% doing it at these at celestial events would increase power, energy. It would increase probably how in touch you are with the energy of the universe. you know, in many ways, I consider it similar to something like plant medicine in that way. Like it's a physical thing you can do to your vessel that tunes you higher. Um, and I think you can achieve this through also going vegan and mostly consuming like raw living uh, organic, like well sourced um, vegan food. Um, because that keeps your body, I think, much more clean from all the GMOs and nastiness that we put up. The Lionsgate, I would call that the 8-8 portal. Is that what we're talking about here? There's different schools of thought on these portals. What I like to think of them as energetic opportunities for us to shift, because the energy comes in and starts to facilitate different types of action or inaction or thought, or growth, internal growth, stuff like that. And so I think of these as sort of celestial events that give us power. And this is the Lion's Gate. It's the Leo fire energy. This is the energy of like strength over emotion and action. And I think what it will facilitate is different for everyone. So for some people, it'll be action to take action in what they truly want in life. Other people, it'll be to take that initiative in that relationship. So I think a lot of people are going to be like, you know what? Oh, I actually sort of messed up with this person. Maybe they messed up too, right? Like big mess up between you both. It takes two to tango. There's always two perspectives, right? So when the other person messed up, it's all relative. And I think a lot of people are going to be like, I actually want to reach out to this person that I've cut off. I think that's going to happen. And I think it's not about recognizing any fault of anything necessarily. It's just about stepping past sort of limitations that we've put on ourselves. Like a lot of that fear, like especially if it's been a while, there's going to be fear there. Like, will they even want to talk to me? That type of thing. Or, has it been too long? Will they forgive me? Because I kind of, I perceived this huge infraction on their side and I just cut ties. And usually, like, I don't know, maybe they have just moved on. Who knows, right? But if it's still bugging you, this is something that I've found to be true, like most of the time. If it's still bugging you, chances are they're also thinking about it. And because you're tied together energetically, right? And so if they've totally cut you off, like you're going to start to move on, especially if there's no contact. Like you're going to sort of start to build space usually. And you'll sort of stop sending each other these psychic pings. But if you're constantly still pulling at each other like that, then most likely that tie isn't done. And it requires one or both of the people to just stand up and be like, I'm sorry for everything that I did. I don't even necessarily know all the things that I did, but here's what I am sorry for, and like that type of thing. Yeah, so I'm Pisces sun and Cancer moon, and then I'm Taurus ascending. And so now I tend to look at all the signs readings to sort of see what resonates with me, because I'll kind of shift in between, and I'll be very fluid. And so I look at all of it now. I'm also on the cusp of Aquarius and Pisces, so sometimes Aquarius readings will also make a lot of sense to me. So it's interesting. And lately too, I've just found that I almost resonate with a lot of the different signs. it's like I've taken on sort of energy from a lot of the collective, so I can feel the archetypes separate within me, if that makes sense. And so I'm starting to be like, okay, I can see the same energy coming in through, you know, some other through some other vessels, zodiac alignment, and how they might perceive things, if that makes sense. I've started to be able to do that a little bit, I think. I don't know. That's what it feels like. So I started almost listening to more. Okay, I'll check it out, Marty. Thank you for sharing. All right, so actually, what'll I do? I will do one more starseed reading before we close it out. Thank you guys for chilling. I appreciate you. I love your faces. As discussed, I'll get that thing live, that Fiverr gig, for people that are interested in doing private readings. As discussed. Such a businessman. So some closing advice from the star teams. Let's see what the galactic wisdom has in store for us. The cosmic heart. Oh, I gotta switch the camera. The cosmic heart. Wow. It's so shiny, I'm sorry. I gotta figure this out next time. I'll get a better light source. Can't really see it. Andromedan energy. Adventure. Say yes to change. It says jump in. Empathic starseed. Energetic sovereignty. Absorbing what's not yours. So this is talking about what we were just talking about, right? Absorbing what isn't ours. And we have to jump into our energetic sovereignty. Like, we have to jump into our power. When we start to say, like, when we say stuff like, this person's draining all my energy, let's say, we're taking responsibility off of ourselves, right? We're saying that we're not in control of our energy, and we're giving it to them then, right? If we understand that we're sovereign and we're in control of all of our energy, then people can't drain it from us. All they can do is request it, and then we can go, here you go. Here's a bunch of my power. Here. You're draining all my power. Here, have it all. And that's what's happening. In reality, that's what's happening. And once we start to see, oh, we're deciding to engage in all of this. Like, we have a choice here. We don't have to participate in these vampires games, right? We just don't have to. That's when we sort of really step into the power. So we start to open up our cosmic heart, compassion, right? We don't judge them. We're not gonna like treat them like crap about it. We're not gonna get all pissed off at them. We're just gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is how they show themselves love. This is how they gain power, is through manipulating others into giving them their power. This is what the negative entity attachments do. The darkness attachments that I was talking about earlier. That's what they do. They distort perception in a person to cause them to act unconsciously, which then has them act in a way that's in some way cruel or malicious and pulling energy from another. And that empowers that sort of persona that they have to continue. And so all we do is I like to say you can't fight peace, right? Like, or think about fighting Gandhi. Like when we embody peace and compassion, like they can't fight us anymore. Doesn't mean we have to give them us. We can be compassionate and blocked off from them taking, if that makes sense. We don't have to engage. And then the jump in is like embracing your power. Embrace your power as like as a divine multidimensional being and creator, right? Like when we're saying that we're victims of another, we're taking power away from ourselves. We're saying that we don't have control over the situation, that it's not up to us, that we're not, we're not participants, active participants in choosing this. And somebody said somewhere, what we don't change, we choose. Or what we choose, we don't, what we don't change, we choose. And that's what it is, right? If a situation feels draining to us, we change it so that it doesn't drain us, whatever that looks like. But we'll often make excuses why we can't do that. And these are like limiting beliefs and stories. These are limiting structures in our mind that we've created based on, could be anything, society, parental guidance, it could be friends and whatever, it could be anything, right? And then the last card is empathic starseed, energetic sovereignty, absorbing what's not yours. So I like to describe us as like these lint rollers of energy. We just roll around the world and just go like this, and all this static sticks to us. And then at the end of the day or the week or whatever, we're like, ugh, I feel so drained. And it's because we don't have control over what we're allowing to be within our field, what we're keeping, and we're not cleansing ourselves properly. There's so many different ways to cleanse. The easiest way, because it doesn't require that you understand anything about your energy systems, is to just have like an Epsom salt bath. Just lay in the bath and try to keep calm and relax and chill out for a little bit. Put on some music that relaxes you, and the salt water will cleanse your system. Another thing you can do is meditate and bring light into your energy systems. So what I like to do is bring light in through the ball of energy above the crown, bring it into the crown, and then into the throat, into the heart, and then down into the solar plexus, sacral chakra, and then the root chakra. But go one at a time. And as I'm doing that, envision the energy centers of those colors lightening. And I start up here and I work my way down, and then I work my way back up and brighten it all. And that, just to do that and envision that, takes about 5 minutes. And depending on how good your clairvoyance is and your sort of inner eye, you'll be able to do that better or worse. You may see the colors not as much as other times, but the more you do it, the more sort of energy you're cleansing and stuff like that. As we brighten these chakra gateways energies, we're cleansing it of some of the guck, I like to think. And then we set intentions for that too. So like that, the big thing is that we know that by doing this practice, we're cleansing our energy, because we can hold on to it and let the energy latch in and hold into us, because we don't believe that these things are helping. It's like I said, all is mental. It's one of the Hermetic principles, right? As within, so without, as above, so below, and all is mental, all is vibration. And so if we believe that all these things we're doing are not going to help us, then we're going to experience a reality where none of this helped us. So it's changing our beliefs is so important. So thank you guys. I appreciate everyone. Can you charge the chakras with source energy? Yeah, absolutely. So you can charge the chakras with energy that, because remember, we're all one energy system, right? So it's all us already. And if we think of it from that unified perspective, it's really about what methodology of envisioning this imaginative, like, because it's all of our imaginative and creative power and expression through the creative infinity that allows us to pull the power in. It's our connection to source. So it is all source, right? Does that make sense? The envisioning of it is really literally just about your personal perspectives on No, that's perfect. I appreciate just being able to speak about it because um, I think it's so important to just talk about different perspectives, and we all have our own practices, and that's so important. Is that however, whatever we perceive to help us, that will be how we do it. So some of us will pull in like, so I've talked about resonating with dragons. Like I could envision my white and black dragons pouring the divine feminine, divine masculine energy into me in a balanced way through blowing fire on me, like a white fire or something, and that engulfs my body in a white flame, which is the armor of God, right? Like that's a pretty cool way to envision yourself sort of becoming shielded in light. And that basically, yeah, exactly. Waterfall as well. The churning of that energy, big. That's why I was going to go to Niagara Falls actually, because the churning of that water is huge as well, energetically. But so that's one way you could envision it, or you could look to Luna and Sol. I like to, because there are constructs assigned to like narrative constructs assigned to the sun and the moon in our mental bodies, and we'll have emotional ties too to these constructs and how we see them in our own personal mythos, if that makes sense, our own personal story and narrative. We'll assign often a masculine energy to the sun and a feminine energy to the moon. And because of this, because of that structure that we've built within ourselves and how we see these separate energies, it's not usually a good idea to empower with just one, because without really meaning to, we'll be pulling in only feminine or more masculine energy, right? Unless we don't perceive it that way. These limitations, because both have a balanced divine masculine, divine feminine. They both have that. So it's not like you couldn't get that energy from, you can't get feminine energy from the sun. That's not the case, right? Just the same way that we can express feminine energy as a man, right? It's similar to that. And so I think it's important, if you're going to any energy that has an imbalance in any way. So if it has a polarization more towards either a masculine or a light and a dark, like part of it too is that how do I say this? How do I say it? That's why the easier way to do it is to just envision source. That's what I like to recommend. And we envision source as a light. If we imagine there's the top of the universe, the top of creation itself, the expanse of the universe, the infinite, we look up and it's there and it's brighter than bright. And it's this giant orb. There's a conduit of light coming straight down into the ball above our head. And that's where the inpouring of source comes in. And we can, as we breathe in, like I tend to do 4 seconds in, hold 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, hold 4 seconds. As we breathe in, we can watch this ball pull in from source and sort of breathe brighter and brighter. So we pull in, breathe in 4 seconds, it's pulsing brighter and brighter. Then we exhale, the energy stays there, the brightness stays, but the air comes out. And then we pull more in from source and watch it get brighter and bigger. And if we can put a spin to it, and make the spin go faster. That's a more advanced thing. And then what I tend to do is you pull it down into the throat. You pull it straight down into the throat, skip the third eye and the crown, and pull it right into the throat, and use you can envision it as like a pearl gray color, and then pump that up as well, because you can skip these two here and get the same bang for your buck. It's like being more efficient, because these two energy centers are meant for mostly processing, not for energy storage, if that makes sense. So your third eye doesn't store a whole bunch of energy in it. It's for perception and pulling in, right? It's like your antennas, and your crown is the same. So you don't need to empower those with energy, if that makes sense, unless they're dirty. So if they're dirty and need cleansing, this will also cleanse them though too, because they're almost like how do I describe it? They're like the fine-tuned instruments that are tuned for receiving, and if you just flood a whole bunch of energy into them, they'll still just receive what they're tuned to receive. That makes sense? Anyways, so then we go down to the throat, we do like a pearl gray and make that brighter, and we breathe in 4 seconds. We do maybe like 4 cycles of each, and then come down into the heart, which we make a gold color. I like to do gold and recommend gold because I like to do the root into Gaia as green, if that makes sense. So the gold in the heart, and breathe that in, expand that out, and then that comes down into your sacral chakra and your root chakra, and you can make that like a bright white as well. And then it comes down into your anchor that anchors you to the earth, which is black. And you imagine black light like a black void, and this balances out the energy in your body, because you need to have the dark energy in there as well, and that balances it out. And actually, you'll see it in the Kabbalistic cross. Here, I'll show you. Like this. So you see you have gold, and then it'll come into the white. The heart center is green, but I like to envision it as gold because it's easier to work with in your mind's eye. And then the white, and it comes down into a dark color here to root you into Gaia. And so then you move down to your feet, and it's like a big ball that your feet are kind of stuck in, and then that connects down into Gaia at the center, the core of Gaia. Yeah, and that's what I would say too as well. Super grounding technique. So one technique that I found to be really helpful for grounding is, the best way I would describe it is picking one technique and working with that one constantly. So what I like to envision is tendrils of like roots coming out of my heart, and they're like light roots that go out through my extremities. And so I'll hold my hands to the ground like this, just at my sides, and I'll stand straight. I'll close my eyes. I'll breathe in, and these roots will connect into the ground, these roots of light tendrils, and I'll bring them all the way down into Gaia, and I'll ask Gaia for permission to ground energy. And then I'll just envision energy flowing out of my heart center down into the earth. And yeah, exactly. You can do root the spine as well. It depends, I think, what we find easier to envision, because essentially we'll get more and more accustomed to envisioning the same process over and over. And so we'll almost become experts at it. So when you say like a super grounding technique, we'll just get better and better at the same one. If we keep switching the technique, then I find like it's more about like our intent and how quickly we can switch into that mode of grounding. Because now what I find is I'm pulling and grounding almost all the time. Like I'm more or less pulling energy in and grounding it just automatically. I feel very light, if that makes sense. You know how when you start to awaken your light quotient goes up, you start to feel very light in your body, but I still feel very grounded as well. And that's the balance that we're looking to achieve. And these systems start to get entrained, I think. And so we start to just automatically do a lot of it because we've taught our energy systems to just kind of behave in this way, if that makes sense. And that's what I've noticed too about the core. As I've started putting energy into the core more and like interacting with the core of Gaia more, what I've started to notice is like a crystalline it's not just a pulsing light anymore. It's starting to crystallize, it feels like. And I'm not sure if that has something to do with me, or if that's just me perceiving what's already there, or it's all collective, like we're crystallizing the core of Gaia. I'm not sure. But yeah. The roots I just find very natural. Yeah, it's like you can just imagine like you're Groot or something. You're a Groot, a light Groot, and you're just like, blah, energy tendrils into the ground. Have my light. I don't know. And the other thing that I do is I'll do mudras. This one I like to do when I'm envisioning myself as a giant. And so if I approach, if anything gives me any sort of like hesitancy, any fear to approach it in some, I don't know, whether it's a mental hurdle or in the physical world, if I feel nervous in some way, I'll do that. And I'll remember that I'm a giant, that I am as big as the universe. And I'll just envision myself, as soon as I touch my fingers like this, it feels like my entire body just explodes, because what it is, it's me expanding my energy body, my light body, and just displaying my power to myself. And that really helps me. But it's also, I think they might call this NLP, neuro linguistic programming. I haven't researched that too much, but yeah, if you do these things and then train that into your mind, then it's like a boom. It's like a little ignition key to start your engines, rev your engines up. So I want to thank everyone for joining me. It's time for me to get off now. I got to go figure out dinner. A bunch of stuff for me to do. Thank you so much for your time and your patience, and for participating in these readings. Like I said, I'm going to start doing private one-on-ones, and I'll start sharing those links out once I have them. And you know, keep on keeping on. You know, I think we're in for a lot of people are in for good tidings, is what I feel around the corner. I think like there's good energy in the air, good things happening, good things happening. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of you. Take care.